Hi YouTube. I'm just gonna wait for a few people to come in. This is our book club. This is, I think, our fifth one. We're gonna be covering A Court of Thorns and Roses. We're starting on chapter 9. So it's gonna be chapter 9 and 10, page 68. So I'm just gonna wait a few minutes for people to come in. Hi, Miss Megan. I think you're the first one. Hi, you guys. We just got done cooking cheeseburgers and doing a campfire. And so now we're gonna do our book club. Hi, Marcia. Hi, Billy. Hi, Sweet Tater Kim. MC in the house. Hi, guys. It's so late. I'm surprised that we have so many people coming in for these. Maybe it's nice to fall asleep too, huh? Hi, Southern. Hi, Kathy Fish Lady. So many people are members. It's so exciting. Hi, you guys. Rita's in the house. Monica, Mary. Hi, Whiskey. Hi, guys. Yeah, I'd like to do these earlier, but I don't know how to get them in earlier, you guys. We might just always be stuck doing these late. Hi, YouTube. This is going to be fun. Yes, Teasy. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Trista. Hi, everyone. I can probably go ahead and get started. I wanted to wait a few minutes for people to come in. So tonight we are doing the chapters 9 and 10 of A Court of Thorns and Roses. So where we're at, we have our main character. Her name is Feyre. She's 19 years old. She's just a regular girl. She's living in this world where, you know, her family is hungry. It's very Hunger Games. You know, everybody's hungry and not doing very well. And so she goes hunting. She hunts a deer and a wolf comes out and she gets the wolf as well. And she goes into town and she sells the wolf pelt. She learns more about the fairies and she comes home and a fairy comes bursting through her door. We meet her family and everything. She's a little passive aggressive. She's not super into her family. A fairy comes and says a life for a life and takes her because the wolf was his friend. And so he takes her. Oh my gosh, Rita. Rita gifting 10 memberships. What? Rita, that's so generous. Holy moly. MC, Haley, Tana, Woohoo, Lola, Poker Face, Gigo Gal, Gina, Flying Solo, Charlie, and Christine all got gifted memberships just now. Whoa, Rita. Oh my goodness, that was so generous. Thank you so much. Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you. Hi, City Boy Dan, Lily, Michelle, Mary, Trista. Hi, everybody. Yeah, oh my gosh. Right on. That's so cool. Yes, I'm so glad you got one, MC. Ah, that was so nice. Thanks for doing that, Rita. Hi, Steph. Hi, Ghost Flowers. Hi, Fino. Hi, everyone. MVP Rita. Everyone liked the live. Thanks, you guys. Very nice. Which chapters? Chapters 9 and 10. Hi, Lil Muffy. Oh, wait, no, it's Luffy. Are we live? We are live, Fino. Where are you from? We're in the United States. I'm going to be reading this book to you guys. I was just telling you guys where we left off. So the fairy took her away, and now she is living in the fairylands. She has to live forever in the fairylands now, away from her family. And she's conflicted by this because she was kind of taking care of her family. And there's some tension between her and the main fairy. It's like kind of like a lord or something, this high fairy. And so it's kind of exciting to see what happens next. She has washed, she has bathed. I think she ate the food. She ate the food, didn't she? Yeah, she ate the food. She licked the plate, I think. Yeah, she ate the food. She's walked around the place. We learned that the fairies are wearing masks because of some old, is it like a curse? Some kind of issue, some kind of blight across the land. Nice. Okay, so we're going to get to reading. So the next hour or so is just going to be me reading to you guys. If that's not your bag of tea, then you are on the wrong live stream. We just got done cooking a cheeseburger and doing a campfire, and now we have our book club. So I'm going to read to you guys now, and then tomorrow morning we'll be live again for coffee and breakfast. So we're going to just be live for an hour or so reading. All right. Chapter 9. The following morning, as Alice and the other servant woman prepared my bath, I contemplated my plan. She's been thinking about escaping. Tamlin had mentioned that he and Lucian had various duties. Tamlin is the main fairy, Lucian is his friend. And aside from running into him in the house yesterday, I'd seen neither of them around. So, locating Lucian alone would be the first order of business. A casual question tossed in Alice's direction had her revealing that she believed Lucian was on border patrol today and would be at the stables preparing to leave. I was halfway through the gardens, hurrying towards the outcropping of buildings that I had spied the day before, when Tamlin said from behind me, "No tripwires today?" I froze misstep and looked over my shoulder. He was standing a few feet away. How he had crept up on me so silently on the gravel, I didn't know. Fairy stealth, no doubt. I willed calm into my veins, my head, and I said politely as I could, "You said I was safe here, so I listened." His eyes narrowed slightly, but he put on what I suppose was his attempt at a pleasant smile. "My morning work was postponed," he said. Indeed, his usual tunic was off, the baldric gone, and the sleeves of his white shirt had been rolled up to his elbows to reveal tanned forearms corded with muscles. "If you want a ride across the grounds, if you're interested in your new residence, then I can take you." Again, that effort to be accommodating, even when every word seemed to pain him. Maybe he could eventually be swayed by Lucian. And until then, how much could I get away with if he was going to such lengths to make his people swear not to harm me, to shield me from the treaty? I smiled blandly, and he said, "I'd prefer to spend the day alone, I think, but thank you for the offer." He tensed. "What about?" "No, thank you," I interrupted, marveling a bit at my own audacity. But I had to catch Lucian alone, had to feel him out. He might already be gone. Tamlin clenched his hands into a fist, as if fighting against the claws itching to burst out. But he didn't reprimand me, didn't do anything other than prowl back into the house without another word. Soon enough, if I was lucky, Tamlin wouldn't be my problem anymore. I hurried for the stables, tucking away the information. Maybe one day, if I was ever released, if there was an ocean and years between us, I would think back and wondered why he bothered. You love this? Oh, I'm so glad. Hi, you guys. Glad you're doing this on YouTube. Me too. It's nice that we can kind of go back. If you miss anything, you can rewind, you can come back and watch the recordings. I tried not to look too eager. Oh, Valerie gifting us membership. Let's go. Klatrev 2 got gifted a membership. Thank you, Valerie. That was very generous of you. I love your channel and your eyes are so beautiful. Thank you, Benjamin. I've been playing around with my eye makeup. Hi, Positive. Hello, you guys. I tried not to look too eager, too out of breath when I finally reached the pretty painted stables. It didn't surprise me that the stable boys all wore horse masks. For them, I felt a shred of pity at what the blight had done, the ridiculous masks they now had to wear until someone could figure out how to undo the magic binding them to their faces. But none of the stable hands even looked at me. Valerie, another gifted subscription. Let's go. Ghost Flowers got one. Oh, I'm so glad Ghost Flowers got one. I don't even know if the people are in here that are getting gifted them. Ah, you guys are so awesome. Ghost Flowers, I'm glad you got one. That is very nice. Hi, Annie. You haven't missed anything yet. We just got started. Yay, wow, thank you so much. Ah, Ghost Flowers, I'm glad you got one. Ghost Flowers has been here forever. Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. You have too. Thank you, guys. Rita and Valerie, MVPs tonight. Gifting the memberships. For them, I felt a shred of pity. None of the stable hands even looked at me, either because it wasn't worth it or because they too resented me for the death of Andrus. I didn't blame them. Any attempt at casualness took a stumble when I finally found Lucian astride the black gelding, grinning down at me with too white of teeth. Good morning, Feyre. I tried to hide the stiffening in my shoulders, tried to smile a bit. Going for a ride or merely reconsidering Tam's offer to live with us? I tried to recall the words I'd come up with earlier. Whoa, Dee, another gifted membership. Whoa, Dee, thank you. Gabby for Justice got one. Ah, Gabby, you just got gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Dee. MVP. Yay, Dee. Thank you so much, Dee. Thanks, you guys. That's so fun. You guys make this so fun. Thank you. I tried to recall the words I'd come up with earlier, the words to win him, but he laughed, and not pleasantly. Come now, I'm to patrol the southern woods today, and I'm curious about the abilities you use to bring down my friend, whether accidental or not. It's been a while since I encountered a human, let alone a fae killer. Indulge me in a hunt. Perfect. At least that part of this had gone well, even if it sounded as lovely as facing a bear in its den. So I stepped aside to let the stable boy pass. He moved with fluid smoothness. All of them here are like that, and didn't look at me either. No indication at all of what he thought he was having. No indication of all of what he thought of having a fae killer in his stable. But my kind of hunting couldn't be done on horseback. Mine consisted of careful stalking and well-laid traps and snares. I didn't know how to give chase atop a horse. Lucian accepted a quiver of arrows from a returning stable boy with a nod of thanks. Lucian smiled in a way that didn't meet the metal eye, or the russet one. No ash arrows today, he said, unfortunately. I clenched my jaw to keep a retort from slipping off my tongue. If he was forbidden from hurting me, I couldn't fathom why he would invite me along, save to mock me in whatever way he could. Perhaps he was truly that bored. Better for me. Sorry, we got a spammer in the chat. There is a full moon tonight. There is a full moon tonight. Hi, you guys. But my kind of hunt... Oh, wait, hold on. So I shrugged, looking as bored as I could. Well, I suppose I'm already dressed for a hunt. Perfect, Lucian said, his metal eye gleaming in the sunlight, slanting in through the open stable doors. I prayed Tamlin wouldn't come prowling through them, prayed he wouldn't decide to go for a ride on his own and catch us here. Let's go then, I said, and Lucian motioned for them to prepare a horse. I leaned against a wooden wall as I waited, keeping an eye on the doorway for signs of Tamlin, and offered my own bland replies to Lucian's remarks about the weather. Mercifully, I was soon astride a white mare, riding with Lucian through the spring-shrouded woods beyond the gardens. I kept a healthy distance from the fox-masked fairy on the broad path, hoping that eye of his couldn't see through the back of his head. And the thought didn't sit well, and I shoved it away, along with the part of me that marveled at the way the sun illuminated the leaves and the clusters of crocuses that grew like flashes of vibrant purple against the brown and green. Those were things that weren't necessary to my plans, useless details that only blocked out everything else, the shape and the slope of the paths, what trees were good for climbing, sounds of nearby water sources. Those were the things that could help me survive if I needed to. But, like the rest of the grounds, the forest was utterly empty. No sign of fairies or any high fae wandering around, just as well. Well, you certainly have the quiet part of hunting down, Lucian said, falling back to ride beside me. Good, let him come to me, rather than me seeming too eager, too friendly. I adjusted the weight of the quiver strap across my chest, then ran a finger along the smooth curve of the yew bow in my lap. The bow was larger than the one I had used at home, the arrows heavier and heads thicker. I would probably miss whatever target I found until I adjusted to the weight and balance of the bow. 5 years ago, I'd taken the very last of my father's coppers from our former fortune to purchase my bow and arrows. I had since allotted a small sum every month for arrows and replacement strings. Well, Lucian pressed, no game good enough for you to slaughter? We've passed plenty of squirrels and birds. The canopy above cast shadows on his fox mask, light and dark and gleaming metal. You seem to have enough food on your table that I don't need to add to it, especially when there's always plenty left over. I doubted squirrel would be good enough for their table. Could you imagine her hunting squirrel? Lucian snorted but didn't say anything else as we passed beneath a flowering lilac, its purple cones drooping low enough to graze my cheek like cool velvety fingers. The sweet crisp spent... Uh-oh, I'm starting to slur my words. That means my brain is getting tired. We have a long way to go. The sweet, crisp scent lingered in my nose even as we rode on. Not useful, I told myself, although the thick brush beyond it would be a good hiding spot if I needed one. You said you were an emissary for Tamlin, I ventured. Do emissaries usually patrol the grounds? A casual, disinterested question. Lucian clicked his tongue. I'm Tamlin's emissary for formal uses, but this was Anders's shift, so someone needed to fill in. It's an honor to do it. That would be funny, MC. Could you imagine? MC said, wouldn't it be funny if you looked outside and other campers are sitting out there listening to you reading? I swallowed hard. Andrus had a place here and friends here. He hadn't been just some nameless, faceless fairy. No doubt he was more missed than I was. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I didn't know what he meant to you all. Lucian shrugged. Tamlin said as much, which was no doubt why he brought you here. Or maybe you looked so pathetic in those rags that he took pity on you. I wouldn't have joined you if I had known you would use this ride as an excuse to insult me. Alice had mentioned that Lucian could use someone who snapped back at him. Easy enough. I wouldn't have... Oh, Lucian smirked. Apologies, Feyre. Bedtime stories at camp, yeah. That's actually pretty funny. What color are your eyes? Brown. I have brown eyes. I have brown eyes. All right, sorry, I lost my spot. I might have called him a liar for that apology had I not known that he could not lie, which made the apology sincere. I couldn't sort it out. So he said, when are you going to start trying to persuade me to beseech Tamlin to find you a way to be free from the treaty's rules? I tried not to jolt. What? That's why you agreed to come out here, isn't it? That's why you wound up in the stables exactly as I was leaving. He shot me a sideways glance with that russet eye of his. Honestly, I'm impressed and flattered you think that I have that kind of sway with Tamlin. I wouldn't reveal my hand yet. What are you talking about? He cocked his head, which was answer enough. He chuckled and said, before you waste one of your precious few human breaths, let me explain two things to you. One, if I had my way, you'd be gone. So it wouldn't take so much convincing on your part. Two, I can't have my way because there's no alternative to what the treaty demands. There's no extra loophole. But there has to be something. I admire your balls, Feyre, I really do. Or maybe it's stupidity, but since Tam won't gut you, which was my first choice, you're stuck here. Unless you want to rough it out on your own in Prythian, which, he looked me up and down, I'd advised against. No, I couldn't just stay here. Not forever, until I died. Maybe there was some other way, or someone else who could find a way out. I mastered my uneven breathing, shoving away the panicked, bleeding thoughts. A valiant effort, Lucian said with a smirk. I didn't bother hiding the glare I cut in his direction. We rode on in silence, and aside from a few birds and squirrels, I saw nothing, heard nothing. After a few minutes, I quieted my riotous thoughts enough to say, where's the rest of Tamlin's court? They all fled the blight on magic? How do you know about the court? He asked so quickly that I realized he thought I meant something else. I kept my face blank. Do normal estates have emissaries and servants chatter? Isn't that why you made him wear bird masks to the party? Lucian scowled, that scar stretching. we each chose what to wear that night to honor Tamlin's shape-shifting gifts, the servants too. But now, if we had a choice, we'd peel them off with our bare hands, he said, tugging at his own. It didn't move. What happened to the magic to make it act that way? Lucian let out a harsh laugh. Something was sent from the shitholes of hell, he said. Then he glanced around and swore. I shouldn't have said that. If word got back to her. Who? The color leached from his sun-kissed skin. He dragged a hand through his hair. Never mind. The less you know, the better. Tam might not find it troublesome to let you know about the blight, but I wouldn't put it past a human to sell the information to the highest bidder. I bristled, but a few bits of information he released lay before me like glittering jewels. A her, who scared Lucian enough to make him worry, to make him afraid someone might be listening, spying, monitoring his behavior. Even out here, I studied the shadows between the trees but found nothing. Prythian was ruled by seven high lords. Perhaps this she who was whoever governed this territory. If not a high lord, then a high lady, if that was even possible. Hi, you guys. Prythian was ruled by seven... Oh, wait, how old are you? I asked, hoping he would keep indulging me even more. But it was better than knowing nothing. Old, he said. He scanned the bush, but I had a feeling his darting eyes weren't looking for game. His shoulders were too tense. What sort of powers do you have? Can you shapeshift like Tamlin? He sighed, looked skyward before he studied me warily, that metal eye narrowing with unnerving focus. Trying to figure out my weaknesses so you can. I glowered at him. Fine. No, I can't shapeshift. Only Tam can. But your friend, he appeared as a wolf. Unless that was his. No, Andrus was high fae too. Tam can shift us into other shapes if need be. He saves it for his sentries only, though. When Andrus was across the wall, Tam changed him into a wolf so he wouldn't be spotted as a fairy, though his size was probably indication enough. A shudder went down my spine, violent enough that I couldn't acknowledge the red-hot glare Lucian lobbed my way. I didn't have the nerve to ask Tamlin if Tamlin could change me into another shape too. Anyway, Lucian went on, the high fae don't have specific powers the way the lesser fairies do. I don't have a natural-born affinity, if that's what you're asking. I don't clean everything in sight or lure mortals to a watery death or grant you answers to whatever questions you might have if you trap me. We just exist to rule. I turned in the other direction so he couldn't see me as I rolled my eyes. I suppose if I were one of you, I'd be one of the fairies, not high fae. A lesser fairy like Alice, waiting on you hand and foot. He didn't reply, which amounted to a yes. With that arrogance, no wonder Lucian found my presence as a replacement for his friend to be abhorrent. And since he would probably loathe me forever, since he'd ended my scheming before it even began, I asked, how did you get that scar? I didn't keep my mouth shut when I should have, and that was punishment. Tamlin did that to you? Cauldron, no, he wasn't there, but he got me the replacement afterwards. More answers that weren't answers. So there are fairies who will actually answer my question if you trap them? Maybe they'd know how to get me free from the treaty's terms. Yes, he said tightly, this surreal, but they're old and wicked and not worth the danger of going after. If you are stupid enough to keep looking so intrigued, I'm going to become rather suspicious and tell Tam to put you under house arrest. Though I suppose you would deserve it if you were indeed stupid enough to seek it out. They had to lurk nearby then, if he was this concerned. Lucian whipped his head to the right, listening, his eye whirling often. The hair on my neck stood, and I had my bow drawn in a heartbeat, pointing it in the direction Lucian stared. Put your bow down, he whispered, his voice low and rough. Put your damn bow down, human, and look straight ahead. I did as he said, and the hair on my arms rised as something rustled in the bush. Don't react, Lucian said, forcing his gaze ahead to the metal eye going still and silent. No matter what you feel or see, don't react, don't look, just stare ahead. I started trembling, gripping the reins in my sweaty hands. I might have wondered if this was some kind of horrible joke, but Lucian's face had gone so very pale. Our horses' ears flattened against their heads, but they continued walking as if they also understood Lucian's command. And then I felt it. Dun 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 dun! That's the end of the chapter. All right. Chapter 10. This is page 90. Ooh, we're making progress. We are making progress. I wonder what she sees. My blood froze as a creeping, leeching cold lurched by. I couldn't see anything, just a vague shimmering in the corner of my vision, but my horse stiffened beneath me. I willed my face into blankness. Even the balmy spring woods seemed to recoil, to wither, to freeze. The cold thing whispered past, circling. I could see nothing, but I could feel it, and in the back of my mind an ancient hollow voice whispered, I will grind your bones between my claws. I will drink your marrow. I will feast on your flesh. I am what you fear. I am what you dread. Look at me. Look at me. I tried to swallow, but my throat had closed up. I kept my eyes on the trees, on the canopy, on anything but the cold mass circling us again and again. Look at me. I wanted to look. I needed to see what it was. Look at me. I stared at the coarse trunk of a distant elm, thinking of the pleasant things, like hot bread and full bellies. I will fill my belly with you. I will devour you. Look at me. A starry, unclouded night sky, peaceful and glittering and endless. Ooh, Rita. Summer sunrise, a refreshing bath in a forest pool, meetings with Isaac, losing myself for an hour or two in his body, in our shared breaths. It was all around us, so cold that my teeth chattered. Look at me. I stared, and I stared at that ever-nearing tree trunk, not daring to blink. My eyes strained, filling with tears, and I let them fall, refusing to acknowledge the thing that lurked around us. Look at me. And just as I thought I would give in, when my eyes hurt so much from not looking, the cold disappeared into the brush, leaving a trail of still recoiling plants behind it. Only after Lucian exhaled and our horses shook their heads did I dare sag into my seat. Even the crocuses seemed to straighten again. What was that? I asked, brushing the tears from my face. Lucian's face was still pale. You don't want to know. Please, what was that? Is it the cereal that you mentioned? Lucian's russet eye was dark as he answered hoarsely. No, it was a creature that should not be in these lands. We call it the bogue. Is it bogue or bogey? We call it the bogey. You cannot hunt it and you cannot kill it, even with your beloved ash arrows. Why can't I look at it? Because when you look at it, when you acknowledge it, that's when it becomes real. That's when it can kill you. A shiver spider walked down my spine. This was the Prythian I had expected, the creatures that made humans speak of them in hushed tones even now. The reason I hadn't hesitated, not for a heartbeat, when I considered the possibility of that wolf being a fairy. I heard its voice in my head. It told me to look. Lucian rolled his shoulders. Well, thank the cauldron that you didn't. Cleaning up that mess would have ruined the rest of my day. He gave me a wan smile. I didn't return it. I still heard the bogey's voice whispering between the leaves, calling to me. You would want to see. I know, Erica. That would have been so hard. She said she wiped the tears from her face. So she was standing there, staring straight ahead at this tree with this voice in her head, and she had tears dripping. Ah, that's quite the image. I know, but now I'm curious about it. I wonder if it returns in the book. After an hour of meandering through the trees, hardly speaking to each other, I had stopped trembling enough to turn to him. So you're old, I said, and you're carrying around a sword and you go on border patrol. Did you fight in the war? Fine, perhaps I hadn't quite let go of the curiosity about his eye. He winced. Shit, Feyre, I'm not that old. Are you a warrior, though? Would you be able to kill me if it ever came to that? Lucian huffed a laugh. Not as good as Tam, but I know how to handle my weapons. He patted the hilt of his sword. Would you like me to teach you how to wield a blade, or do you already know how? If you took down Andrus, you probably don't need to learn anything. Only where to aim, right? He tapped on his chest. I don't know how to use a sword. I only know how to hunt. Same thing, isn't it? For me, it's different. Lucian fell silent, considering. I suppose you humans are such hateful cowards that you would have wet yourself, curled up, and waited to die if you had known beyond a doubt what Andrus truly was. Insufferable. Lucian sighed as he looked over at me. Do you ever stop being so serious and dull? That's so rude. What a rude thing to say to somebody. Do you ever stop being such a blank? I snapped back. Dead, really, truly, I should have been dead for that. But Lucian grinned at me, much better. Alice, it seemed, had not been wrong. So he likes her giving it back to him. Okay. It's the bog like fog. Oh, okay. It's just spelled weird. I'm your boogeyman, that's what I am. Hi, Captain Mutt. Yeah. Okay, so it's pronounced bog. I was thinking bogey because it was spelled weird. Whatever tentative truce we had built that afternoon vanished at dinner time. Tamlin was lounging in his usual seat, a long claw out encircling his goblet. It paused on the lip as soon as I entered, Lucian on my heels. His green eyes pinned me to the spot. Right. I'd brushed him off that morning, claiming I wanted to be alone. Tamlin slowly looked at Lucian, whose face turned grave. We went on a hunt, Lucian said. I heard, Tamlin said roughly, glancing between us as we took our seats. And did you have fun? Slowly, his claw sank back into his flesh. Lucian didn't answer, leaving it to me. Coward. I cleared my throat. Sort of, I said. Did you catch anything? Every word was clipped out. No, Lucian gave me a pointed cough as if urging me to say more, but I had nothing to say. Tamlin stared at me for a long moment, then dug into his food, not at all interested in talking to me either. Then Lucian quietly said, Tam. Tamlin looked up, more animal than fey in those green eyes, a demand for whatever it was Lucian had to say. Lucian's throat bobbed. The bog was in the forest today. The fork in Tamlin's hand folded in on itself. He said with lethal calm, You ran into it? Lucian nodded. It moved past but came close. It must have snuck through the border. Metal groaned as Tamlin's claws punched out, obliterating the fork. He rose to his feet with a powerful, brutal movement. I tried not to tremble as at the contained fury, at how his canines seemed to be lengthening as he said, Where in the forest? Lucian told him. Tamlin threw a glance in my direction before stalking out of the room and shutting the door behind him with unnerving gentleness. Lucian loosed a breath, pushing away his half-eaten food and rubbing at his temples. Where is he going? I asked, staring towards the door. To hunt the bog. You said it couldn't be killed, that you can't face it. Tam can. Oh. Well, why can Tam face it? What's so special about Tam? My breath caught a bit. The gruff, high fae, half-heartedly flattering me, was capable of killing a thing like a bog, and yet he had served me himself the first night, offering me life rather than death. I'd known he was lethal, that he was a warrior of sorts, but... So he went to hunt the bog where we were earlier today? Lucian shrugged. If he's going to pick up a trail, it would be there. I had no idea how anyone could face that immortal horror, but it wasn't my problem. And just because Lucian wasn't going to eat anymore didn't mean I wouldn't. Lucian, lost in the thought, didn't even notice the feast I drowned. I returned to my room and, awake with nothing else to do, began monitoring the garden beyond for signs of Tamlin's return. He didn't come back. I sharpened the knife I'd hidden away on a bit of stone I'd taken from the garden. An hour passed and still Tamlin did not return. The moon showed her face, casting the garden below in silver and shadow. Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous to watch for his return, to see if he could indeed survive against the bog. I returned from the window, about to drag myself into bed, but something moved out in the garden. I lunged for the curtains beside the window, not wanting to be caught waiting for him, and peered out. It wasn't Tamlin, but someone lurked by the hedges facing the house, looking towards me. Male, haunched, and... The breath went out of me as the fairy hobbled closer, just 2 steps into the light leaking from the house. Not a fairy, but a man. It was my father. Eee! Oh, man. Hey, that was 2 chapters. We're only half an hour in. We can do another chapter. Interesting. All right, let's keep going. Chapter 11. I didn't give myself a chance to panic, to doubt, to do anything but wish I had stolen some food from my breakfast table as I layered on tunic after tunic and bundled myself in a cloak, stuffing the knife I'd stolen into my boot. The extra clothes in the satchel would just be a burden to carry. My father had come to take me, to save me. It is totally not her father. Don't you think it must be a fairy disguised as her father, right? There's no way her father couldn't walk very well. I bet you it's not her father. My father had come to save me. Whatever benefits Tamlin had given him upon my departure couldn't be too tempting then. Maybe he had a ship prepared to take us far away. Maybe he had somehow sold the cottage and gotten enough money to set us up in a new place, a new continent. My father, my crippled, broken father, had come. A quick survey of the ground beneath my window revealed no one outside, and the silent house told me no one had spotted my father yet. He was still waiting by the hedge, now beckoning me. At least Tamlin had not returned. With a final glance at my room, listening for anyone approaching from the hall, I grasped the nearby trellis of wisteria and eased myself down the building. I winced at the crunch of the gravel beneath my boots. But my father was already moving towards the outer gates, limping along with his cane. How had he even gotten here? There had to be horses nearby then. He was hardly wearing enough clothing for the winter that would await us once we crossed the wall, but I'd layered on so much that I could spare him some items if he needed it. Keeping my movements light and silent, carefully avoiding the light of the moon, I hurried after my father. He moved with surprising swiftness towards the darkened hedges and beyond the gate. Only a few hall candles were burning inside the house. I didn't dare breathe too loudly, didn't dare call for my father as he limped toward the gate. If we left now, if indeed had horses, we could be halfway home by the time they realized I was gone, and then we would flee. Flee Tamlin, flee the blight that could soon invade our lands. My father reached the gates. They were already open, the dark forest beyond beckoning. He must have hidden the horses deeper in. He turned toward me, that familiar face drawn and tight. Those brown... Sounds like a setup. It does. That scared me. Could you guys hear the horn honking? Somebody set off their car alarm. Oh, man. Hurry, hurry. Every movement of his hand seemed to shout out. My heart was raging, beating in my chest and my throat. Only a few feet now to him, to freedom, to a new life. A massive hand wrapped around my arm. Going somewhere? Oh, shit. Shit. Tamlin's claws poked through the layers of my clothing as I looked up at him in unabashed terror. I didn't dare move, not his lips thin and his muscles and jaw quivered. The muscles in his jaw quivered. Not as he opened his mouth and I glimpsed fangs, long throat-tearing fangs shining in the moonlight. He was going to kill me right there, and then my father too. No more loopholes, no more flattery, no more mercy. He didn't care anymore. I was as good as dead. Please, I breathed. My father. Your father? He lifted his stare to the gates behind me, and his growl rumbled through me as he bared his teeth. Why don't you look again? He released me. I staggered back a step, whirling, sucking in my breath to tell my father to run, but he was not there. Only a pale bow and a quiver of pale arrows remained, propped up against the gates, mountain ash. They hadn't been there moments before. They rippled as if they were nothing but water, and then the bow and quiver became a large pack laden with supplies. Another ripple, and then there was my sisters huddled together, weeping. My knees buckled. What is this? I didn't finish the question. My father now stood there, still haunched and beckoning, a flawless rendering. Weren't you warned to keep your wits about you? Tamlin snapped. That your human senses wouldn't betray you. He stepped beyond me and let out a snarl so vicious that whatever the thing was by the gate shimmered with light and darted out as fast as lightning, streaking through the dark. Fool, he said to me, churning. If you're ever going to run away, at least do it during the daytime. He stared me down. and the fangs slowly retracted. The claws remained. There are worse things than the bog prowling in the woods at night. The things in the gates aren't one of them, and it still would have taken a good long while devouring you. Somehow my mouth began working again, and of all the things to say I blurted, "Can you blame me? My crippled father appears beneath my window, and you think I'm not going to run for him? Did you actually think I would gladly stay here forever, even if you had taken my family, all for some treaty that had nothing to do with me and allows your kind to slaughter humans as you see fit?" He flexed his fingers as if trying to get claws back in, but they remained out, ready to slice through flesh and bone. "What do you want, Feyre? I want to go home." You love the commentary. This is great. Home to what exactly? You'd prefer that miserable human existence to this? I made a promise, I said, my breathing ragged, to my mother when she died, that I'd look after the family and that I would take care of them. All I have done every single day, every hour, has been for that vow. And just because I was hunting to save my family, to put food in their bellies, I'm now forced to break it. He stalked toward the house, and I gave him a wide berth before falling in step behind him. His claws slowly retracted. He didn't look at me as he said, "You are not breaking your vow. You are fulfilling it, and then some, by staying here. Your family is better cared for now than they were when you were there." Those chipped, miscolored paintings inside the cottage flashed in my vision. Perhaps they would forget who even painted them in the first place. Insignificant. That's what all those years I'd given them would be, as insignificant as I was to these high fae. And that dream I'd have of one day living with my father with enough food and money and paint, it had been my dream, no one else's. I rubbed at my chest. I can't just give up on it, on them, no matter what you say. Even if I had been a fool, a stupid human fool, to believe that my father would actually come for me. Tamlin eyed me sidelong. "You're not giving up on them. Living in luxury, stuffing myself with food, how is that not? They are cared for. They are fed and comfortable." Fed and comfortable. He couldn't lie. If it was true then it was beyond anything I'd dare hope for. Then my vow to my mother was fulfilled. It stunned me enough that I didn't say anything for a moment as we walked. Oh, thanks, A. Marie. My life was now owned by the treaty, but perhaps I'd be freed in another sort of way. We neared the sweeping stairs that led into the manor, and I finally asked, "Lucian goes on border patrol, and you mentioned the other sentries, yet I've never seen one here. Where are they all?" "At the border," he said, as if that were a suitable answer. Then he added, "We don't need sentries if I'm here." Because he was deadly enough, I tried not to think about it, but still I asked, "Were you trained as a warrior then?" "Yes." When I didn't reply, he added, "I spent most of my life in my father's war band on the borders, training as a warrior to one day serve him or others. Running these lands was not supposed to fall to me." The flatness of which he said it told me that enough about how he felt about his current title, about why the presence of his silver-tongued friend was necessary. But it was too personal, too demanding to ask what had occurred to change his circumstances so greatly. What are you reading? This is A Court of Thorns and Roses. We're on page 98. No, we're on page 99. Page 99, chapter 11. I read a couple of chapters every night. So that's what we're doing. What manner of fairies prowl the woods beyond this gate? If the bog isn't the worst of them, what was that thing? What I'd meant to really ask was, what would have tormented and then eaten me? And who are you to be so powerful that they pose no threat to you? He paused on the bottom step, waiting for me to catch up. A pucka? Is it puka or pucka? Does anybody know? Pusa? They use your own desires to lure you to some remote place, and then they eat you slowly. It probably smelled your human scent in the woods and followed it to the house. I shivered and didn't bother to hide it. Tamlin went on. These lands used to be well guarded. The deadlier fairies were contained within the borders of their native territories, monitored by the local Fey lords, or driven into hiding. Creatures like the puka never would have dared to set foot here, but now the sickness of the infected Prythian has weakened the words that kept them out. A long pause, like the words were choked out of him. Things are different now. It's not safe to travel alone at night, especially if you're human. Because humans were defenseless as babies compared to the natural-born predators like Lucian and Tamlin, who didn't need weapons to hunt, I glanced at his hands but found no trace of the claws, only tanned, callous skin. What else is different now? I asked, trailing him up the marble front steps. He didn't stop at this time, didn't even look over his shoulder to see me as he said, everything. She must have followed your TikTok. What do you mean? The deadly fairies. So I truly was to live there forever, as much as I longed to ensure that Tamlin's word would be caring for my word about caring for my family was true, as much as his claim was that I take better care of my family by staying away. Even if I was truly fulfilling that vow to my mother by staying in Prythian, without the weight of that promise, I was left hollow and empty. Yay, you're on here. Hi, Maria. I'm on page 100. We're reading Court of Thorns and Roses. Over the next 3 days, I found myself joining Lucian on Anders's old patrol while Tamlin hunted the grounds for the bog, unseen by us. Despite being an occasional son without a father, the B word, Lucian didn't seem to mind my company and did most of the talking, which was fine. It left me to brood over the consequences of firing a single arrow. An arrow. I never fired a single one during those 3 days we rode along the border. That very morning, I spied a red doe in a glen and aimed out of instinct, my arrow poised to fly right into her eye as Lucian sneered that she was not a fairy, at least. But I'd stare at her, fat and healthy and content, and then slackened the bow, replaced the arrow in my quiver, and let the doe wander on. I never saw Tamlin around the manor, off hunting the bog day and night, Lucian informed me. Even at dinner, he spoke little before leaving early, off to continue his hunt night after night. I didn't mind his absence. It was a relief, if anything. On the third night after my encounter with the puka, I scarcely sat down before Tamlin got up, giving an excuse about not wanting to waste hunting time. Hi, I'd have to catch up, but okay. Oh, Maria, you're fine. What I could see of Lucian's face was pale and tight. You worry about him, I said. Lucian slumped in his seat, wholly undignified for a Fey lord. Tamlin gets into moods. He doesn't want your help hunting the bog, I asked. He prefers being alone, and having the bog in our lands, I don't suppose you'd understand. The puka are minor enough not to bother him, but even after he's shredded the bog, he'll brood over it. And there's no one who can help him at all. He would probably shred them for disobeying his order to stay away. A brush of ice slithered across my nape. He would be that brutal? Lucian studied the wine in his goblet. You don't hold on to power by being everyone's friend. And among the fairies, lesser and high fae alike, a firm hand is needed. We're too powerful and too bored with immortality to be checked by anything else. It seems like a cold, lonely position to have, especially when you didn't particularly want it. I wasn't sure why it bothered me so much. The snow was falling, thick and merciless, already up to my knees as I pulled the bowstring back further and further until my arm trembled. Behind me, a shadow lurked, no, watched. I didn't dare take a look at it to see who it might be within the shadow observing, not as a wolf stared at me across the clearing. Just staring, as if waiting, as if daring me to fire the ash arrow. No, I didn't want to do it. Not this time, not again. No! But I had no control over my fingers, absolutely none, and he was still staring as I fired. One shot straight through that golden eye. A fume of blood splattering in the snow, a thud of heavy body, and a sigh of wind. No! It wasn't a wolf that hit the snow. No, it was a man, tall and well-formed. No, not a man, a high fae with those pointed ears. I blinked, and then, my hands warm and sticky with blood. Then his blood was red and skinless, steaming in the cold, and it was his skin that I held in my hands, and I think it was a dream. I threw myself awake, sweat slipping down my back, and forced myself to breathe, to open my eyes and note each detail of the night dark bedroom. Real, this was real. But I could still see the high fae male face down in the snow, my arrow through his eye, red and bloody all over from where I cut and peeled the skin. Bile stung my throat. Not real, just a dream. Even if what I'd done to Andrus was, as a wolf, was... I scrubbed my face. Perhaps it was quiet, the hollowness of the past few days. Perhaps it was only that I no longer had to think hour after hour about how to keep my family alive, but... it was regret and maybe shame that coated my tongue, my bones. I shuddered as if I could fling it off and kicked back the sheets to rise from the bed. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. So that was chapter 11. Tomorrow we'll do chapter 12. So we're at page 102. So ultimately, I think what's happened is, so she has been developing a bit of a bond with these guys. She's been getting to know these guys a little bit better. Tamlin and Lucian, right? So I don't know why she's still so bent on escaping. Like, I have no idea why she's bent on escaping. So she's eating, she's around a couple of cool dudes who are nice to her. Her family's taken care of. I don't know what she's complaining about. I don't think there's any problem. She just needs to chill out. She learned about a couple of different fairies. She learned about the bog, and she learned about the whatever it's called. So she learned about a couple of different monsters that can bother her. So I think what that's established is that she can't really leave, you know? She needs to stay there. She shouldn't run off because, you know, there's just a lot going on. She shouldn't run off because her family's being taken care of, and she shouldn't run off because there's things out there that will eat her. You're not a small-time creator. What do you mean? Hi, y'all. Cindy from Sacramento. Hi, Cindy. Thanks, Steph. I really love all of this. Thank you for the reading. Oh, thanks you guys for being here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the book, too. You know, I don't like all of the extra frilly words, but I feel like there was a lot of that in the beginning and less of it now. I feel like now we're more in the action, and I like action in books, so I feel like there's enough going on to keep me interested. Yeah, they're building the characters, they're establishing like what's going on in the world. So there's some layers developing. Like her going and hunting with Lucian kind of gave them a connection. And Tamlin kind of preventing her from getting eaten by that monster in the night kind of gave a connection. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, thanks for hanging out, you guys. I guess I'm going to go to bed. Thanks for all the love. I'll be live in the morning for coffee and oatmeal. I've been doing it on YouTube. I might do a double live stream with TikTok in the morning. You think she is part fairy? Nah, I don't think so. You think so? Thank you. Good night. Good night, you guys. We'll see you later. Have a good morning, or have a good night. Get some good sleep. I'll see you in the morning. Bye, guys. Good night. Bye, guys.